Number 40, disciplinary blinders. I almost had trouble saying
Disciplinary.
that.
Disciplinary blinders. A very common, this is number 40, disciplinary blinders. A very common contemporary scholarly or professional fallacy of ethos, that of one's discipline, profession, or academic field, automatically disregarding, discounting, or ignoring a priori otherwise relevant research, arguments, and evidence that come from outside one's own professional discipline, discourse, community, or academic area of study. That might be relevant or not, but it's so not what we're doing in our field right now. See also star power and two truths. An analogous fallacy is that of denominational blinders, arbitrarily ignoring or waving aside without serious consideration any arguments or discussion about faith, morality, ethics, spirituality, the divine, or the afterlife that come from outside one's own specific religious denomination or faith tradition. Got
Well,
it.
I have to tell you, I am extremely confused by this one. I was like partly not paying attention, and also like, can you summarize this? Because
Yes,
I'm
I
so
can.
fucking confused by what you just said.
Yeah. Yes. Disciplinary blinders. So it's essentially like, um, example, if I am an expert in plumbing and you're an expert in being an electrician, if me as the plumber, I make plans to have a house with plumbing a certain way, and the electrician comes in and says, no, that's not right. Here's why. I would disciplinary blinders is me writing that person off because we're in different disciplines. It's like, oh, because you're an electrician, you don't get what plumbers do, even though that electrician might be calling something out that I just missed. So invalidating someone because they're not in the same field or the same space or the same
Okay,
expertise. And then
very well. And then there's
denominate,
a second one, yeah.
yep. And then denominational blinders, it's more on religious basis. And it's essentially, it'd be the exact same scenario I just painted for you, except if it was like a Baptist and a Methodist disagreed on something. If the Methodist said this is this way and the Baptist said no, this is this way, the Methodist says, well, you're not Methodist, so you wouldn't know, kind of a thing. So it's like you're essentially
Okay.
you're using each other's titles as a reason why your opinion on something is not correct because you're not even in the same you're not playing in the same thing. This is a huge in-group out-group.
Okay. This also, uh, in addition to that, it feels like ad hominem as well. Um, yeah, I'm still a little confused on this one, but so it's saying because when it comes to things that we don't understand in fields that we don't understand, it is more reasonable to say, um, even though this is argument from authority, uh, so and so scientist or doctor says this, and it sounds pretty reasonable, and so it's more likely true than not true. But saying that it's absolutely true because it said it is a fallacy.
Yep.
So the first part's reasonable, where we can um have good reason to believe that somebody's word in a given field is more likely correct than not correct. But is this fallacy describing that it doesn't make it absolutely correct? Because that would make sense.
No,
Um,
it what it does is it invalidates anyone else's input um based off of like their title or their field. So it would be like if yeah, it'd be like yeah, is that helpful?
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's I think it sounds complicated, but it's very simple. It is just very simple. It's just like if someone outside of your field has a valid point and you invalidate it because they're not in your field, that's disciplinary blinders.
Okay. Right. think I have an example for this one. Um, there are many younger creationists that will cite Piltdown Man, and this is a true story for to side with younger creationists, um, but it took science to debunk this. But anyways, have you heard of Piltdown Man, Alan?
Mm.
Okay, great. So right when the theory, or I would say at the time, hypothesis of evolution was being developed, um, it made many predictions that we would find a evolutionary transition between dinosaurs and birds, which we eventually did find. And it made another prediction that we would find some kind of half ape, half human thing, just to show like how humans evolved. That was one of the predictions of this hypothesis, which over the past few hundred years, we found all of that and more. Um, but when it first got started, we there wasn't much, and so someone wanted to be famous, and they constructed a fraud skeleton, partly from I believe partly from like chimpanzee, gorilla, and human, and they put it all together, and they called it Piltdown Man as this like missing link thing, and the the jaw and the teeth in it didn't match that of what evolutionary um, uh, predictions had at the time. And because this is in the field of anthropology, the dentists at the time were like, no, that's wrong. And the anthropologists are like, get the fuck out of here. You're not an anthropologist. You're a fucking dentist. And
Yeah.
the dentists were right. They're like, teeth don't do that. Someone shaved them down to make it look more like human than it is. It's not. It's false. And it took um I'm like spitballing here. I think it was somewhere between like approximately like 50 years or so for us to develop the scientific tools to learn, oh, it is a fraud. But for a while it was accepted. And
Mm.
but the dentist called it out immediately, and nobody listened because they're dentists.
Wow. Yeah, that's a perfect example of this. Perfect example. I think for me, where I can recognize that I've done this is uh, back when I was working with Cutco, and we were using different strategies to bring people into the door to be able to sell knives. When those, I remember like being in a position where when I described the marketing strategies as an example to somebody, and that person would have a weird reaction, or they would say something like, um, isn't that manipulation or something of that nature, or exploitation? Um, my thought to it was basically like, well, they don't get it because they're not in sales, or they don't get it because they're not trying to go and like run a business or something. They're not a business owner. So
Which
not
is
quite
a
exactly the same.
combination of that defensiveness and maybe even deliberate ignorance.
Yeah, totally. So it was I remember that being something that I definitely did at one point. It was a way that I wrote people off by believing, oh, you're not in the company or you're not in this space, so you wouldn't know. It was a definitely a way that I justified away someone else's input for sure.
Very good.